For thousands of years, the pyramids have stood as silent sentinels of the ancient world, guarding secrets that defy time itself. These monumental structures have captivated explorers, scholars, and dreamers alike, not just for their staggering size, but for the unanswered questions whispered between their stone blocks. What if I told you that after centuries of study, we've barely scratched the surface of their mysteries? Recent discoveries have shattered everything we thought we knew, uncovering not one or two, but 30 hidden chambers buried deep within these ancient wonders. These aren't just empty rooms, they're time capsules holding clues that could rewrite history as we know it. Picture this: deep beneath the sun-baked sands, in the heart of the most famous pyramids, archaeologists have stumbled upon passages sealed for millennia. Behind walls that appeared solid, hidden doors slid open to reveal chambers untouched by human hands for over 4,000 years. Some contain artifacts unlike anything seen before: strange symbols, unfamiliar tools, even traces of materials that shouldn't exist in that era. Others are completely barren, their purpose a riddle that challenges our understanding of why these pyramids were built in the first place. What were they hiding? And why go to such extraordinary lengths to conceal these spaces? This isn't just about finding new rooms, it's about unlocking a story far grander than we ever imagined. Each discovery peels back another layer of a civilization that mastered engineering, astronomy, and secrets we're only beginning to grasp. As we venture deeper into these hidden chambers, we're not just exploring physical spaces, we're stepping into the minds of the ancients, deciphering their intentions one astonishing revelation at a time. So join me as we piece together the puzzles left behind and uncover the truths that have been waiting in the shadows for centuries. The pyramids still have stories to tell, and what we're about to reveal might change everything. One of the most astonishing recent discoveries lies inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, an enormous hidden void lurking just above the Grand Gallery. In 2017, scientists using advanced muon radiography, a technique similar to an X-ray but capable of penetrating deep into solid rock, detected a massive empty space nearly 100 feet long. This wasn't some minor crack or natural cavity. It was a deliberate, architecturally significant chamber, sealed away for more than 4,500 years. The precision of its placement suggests it was no accident. Some experts believe it could be a structural buffer, meant to relieve pressure from the immense weight of the pyramid's upper layers. But others argue the design is too intentional, too carefully hidden, to serve just a practical purpose. Could this be the legendary treasure chamber many have speculated about? Ancient texts hint at hidden repositories of knowledge, sacred artifacts, or even the lost records of a forgotten technology. The walls of this void remain untouched, leaving us to wonder what might lie inside. What makes this discovery even more intriguing is how it challenges long-held assumptions about the pyramid's construction. For centuries, scholars believed they had mapped every corridor and chamber within the Great Pyramid. Yet here was proof that secrets still lingered in plain sight. The void's existence raises questions about how much we truly understand the builders' techniques or their motives. Were they safeguarding something invaluable, or was this space part of a grander design, perhaps linked to the pyramid's celestial alignments? Without physical access, theories range from the plausible to the extraordinary. Some suggest it could house the original capstone, a sacred relic said to have vanished millennia ago. Others speculate about undiscovered inscriptions, maybe even the true purpose of the pyramid itself. The technology that revealed this chamber is just as remarkable as the find. Muon detectors, originally developed for studying cosmic rays, have opened a new frontier in archaeology. By tracking these high-energy particles that pass effortlessly through stone, scientists can map hidden spaces with unprecedented clarity. It's a game-changer, proving that even the most studied monuments on Earth still hold surprises. If this technique can uncover one hidden void, how many more might be waiting? The Great Pyramid has guarded its mysteries for ages, but with every scan, every new discovery, the ancient stones yield a little more. Whatever lies in that secret chamber, one thing is certain: the story of the pyramids is far from over. Beneath the imposing mass of Khufu's pyramid, the second largest at Giza, lies a chamber that defies easy explanation. A rough, subterranean room carved directly into the bedrock, its walls unfinished and its purpose shrouded in mystery. Unlike the polished corridors and grand galleries found elsewhere in the pyramid, this space feels raw, almost hastily abandoned. The floor is uneven, the ceiling slopes abruptly, and the air carries the weight of unresolved intent. Archaeologists have long debated whether this chamber was meant to be the pharaoh's final resting place, later scrapped when plans changed, or if it served a completely different function altogether, one we've yet to decipher. What makes this underground chamber so puzzling are the strange markings left behind. Deep grooves cut into the walls suggest scaffolding or supports were once installed, hinting at construction that was abruptly halted. Some researchers point to these clues as evidence that the chamber was originally intended as the burial vault, abandoned when builders shifted focus to the pyramid's higher chambers. Others argue the space was never meant for a sarcophagus at all. The absence of any funerary artifacts, no fragments of pottery, no traces of offerings raises questions. Could this have been a staging area for construction, a storage space for tools, or even a symbolic gateway to the underworld? The ancient Egyptians believed in layers of existence, and this chamber's location, sunk deep beneath the earth, aligns eerily with their visions of the afterlife's thresholds. Theories about this chamber take an even more intriguing turn when you consider its alignment. Unlike the precision seen in the pyramid's upper passages, this subterranean room sits slightly off-axis, as if its placement was an afterthought or a deliberate deviation. Some scholars propose that the builders encountered unforeseen geological challenges, forcing them to alter their plans. Others speculate that the chamber's rough state is intentional, designed to mirror the chaos of the underworld before the soul's ascent. A handful of fringe researchers even suggest it might have been repurposed from an older, pre-existing structure, a remnant of a forgotten phase of construction. What's undeniable is that this chamber forces us to rethink the pyramid's construction timeline. If it was abandoned, why leave it accessible? Why not seal it off entirely? The answers might lie in the broader context of Khufu's reign. Historical records hint at political or religious shifts that could have prompted sudden changes in architectural priorities. Perhaps the chamber's unfinished state is a snapshot of a pharaoh's evolving vision, frozen in stone. Or maybe its true purpose was something so mundane or so sacred that we're still missing the key to understanding it. One thing is certain: this underground space is more than just an abandoned project. It's a puzzle box holding clues to the pressures, beliefs, and practical realities of the pyramid's builders. Every scratch on its walls, every irregular angle whispers a question. And until we find more evidence, the chamber beneath Khufu's pyramid remains one of Egypt's most compelling open-ended mysteries. Deep within the Great Pyramid, tucked away above the king's chamber, lies a space surrounded by enigma, the Queen's Chamber. Though its name suggests royal significance, historians agree it likely held no queen. Instead, it hides one of the pyramid's most intriguing features: two narrow shafts, each barely 8 inches wide, extending outward at precise angles. For decades, these mysterious passages defied exploration, too small for humans, too treacherous for early technology. But in 2017, a team of engineers and archaeologists deployed a custom-built robotic crawler, finally piercing secrets sealed for millennia. What they found, and didn't find, rewrote our assumptions about the pyramid's design. The shaft's celestial alignment is no accident. One points directly toward the star Sirius, sacred to the goddess Isis, while the other aligns with Orion's belt, linked to Osiris, god of the afterlife. This wasn't random. Every angle reflects the ancient Egyptians' obsession with cosmic harmony. But here's the puzzle. Unlike the shafts in the king's chamber, which exit the pyramid's exterior, these terminate abruptly within the stone. Why build such precise channels only to seal them off? Some theorists propose they were symbolic pathways for the pharaoh's soul to ascend to the stars. Others argue they served a practical role, perhaps ventilation during construction or part of an abandoned burial ritual. The robot's journey added more questions than answers. As it navigated the shaft's tight turns, its cameras revealed something startling. A small door with copper handles blocking further progress. Beyond it lay a tiny, empty space, and then another sealed door. The discovery ignited debates. Were these barriers meant to protect something, ritual objects, sacred texts, or were they merely structural? The team's thermal scans detected no hidden chambers beyond, deepening the riddle. Even more perplexing were the strange symbols etched near the first door, unlike any known hieroglyphs. Were they builders' marks, religious inscriptions, or something else entirely? What makes these shafts extraordinary is their defiance of simple categorization. They're too precisely engineered to be mere vents, yet too cryptic to confirm spiritual theories. Modern technology has peeled back one layer only to reveal another. The ancient builders left no manuals, no blueprints, just silent corridors that whisper of intentions we're still piecing together. As we continue probing these passageways, one truth becomes clear. The Queen's Chamber shafts are more than architectural quirks. They're a language in stone and alignment, a testament to a civilization that wove science, faith, and mystery into the very bones of their monuments. And somewhere in those tight, dark tunnels, the pyramid still guards its oldest secrets. In the shadow of Dahshur stands one of Egypt's most enigmatic structures, the bent pyramid, its distinctive slope shifting abruptly halfway up as if the builders changed their minds mid-construction. But in 2023, a LiDAR scan uncovered something even more surprising. A hidden corridor snaking through its heart at an angle that defies conventional pyramid design. This wasn't just another passage, it was a deliberate, twisting path concealed behind thick limestone blocks, its purpose as elusive as the pharaoh who commissioned it. Sneferu, the father of pyramid builders, left behind a legacy of architectural trial and error, and this corridor might be the missing clue to understanding his ambitious and sometimes flawed experiments. What sets this discovery apart is its odd trajectory. Unlike the straight, purposeful shafts of Giza, this corridor zigzags, bending at uneven intervals like a river carving through stone. Some Egyptologists argue it was a structural necessity, a way to redistribute weight after the pyramid's infamous bend compromised its stability. Others see it as evidence of a sacred blueprint, a symbolic path reflecting the pharaoh's journey through the underworld, mirroring the chaotic twists of ancient myths. The corridor's walls bear no inscriptions, but their rough-hewn surfaces show tool marks consistent with Sneferu's era, suggesting this wasn't a later addition but an original, if unconventional, feature. Theories about its function spiral as unpredictably as the corridor itself. One compelling idea ties it to Sneferu's obsession with perfection. After the collapse of his first pyramid at Meidum, the bent pyramid became a desperate gamble, a switch from steep angles to a safer slope midway up. Could this hidden passage have been an emergency measure, a way to reinforce the structure without starting over? Scans reveal it intersects with known chambers, hinting at a network of backup supports. Yet its isolation deep within the pyramid raises doubts. If it was purely practical, why bury it so completely? Another tantalizing possibility links the corridor to Sneferu's religious innovations. During his reign, solar worship surged, and some scholars propose the bent pyramid's unusual shape mirrors the rays of the setting sun. The hidden passage, then, might have been a ritual conduit, a channel for the pharaoh's spirit to ascend alongside the sun god Ra. Its erratic path could symbolize the obstacles faced in the afterlife, a physical manifestation of the trials described in the pyramid texts. Without direct evidence, though, the corridor remains a Rorschach test for archaeologists, each interpretation revealing as much about modern biases as ancient intentions. What's undeniable is how this discovery reshapes our view of Sneferu's legacy. Long dismissed as a transitional figure, his experiments now appear deliberate, even visionary. The bent pyramid's hidden corridor isn't just a relic of trial and error. It's a testament to the boldness of a ruler willing to risk failure in pursuit of eternity. And as LiDAR technology peels back more layers, who knows what other secrets might emerge from the shadows of his unfinished masterpieces. South of Giza, buried in the sands near the forgotten site of Zoy at El Arian, lies one of Egypt's most perplexing ruins, an unfinished subterranean labyrinth that hints at a pyramid project abruptly abandoned mid-construction. At its heart, a gaping vertical shaft plunges nearly 100 feet into the bedrock, its walls lined with rough-cut limestone blocks that taper toward a bottom lost in shadows. Unlike the polished galleries of Giza, this space feels raw, almost frantic, as if the builders downed tools and walked away, leaving behind a ghost of what might have been. Archaeologists date the site to the reign of an obscure pharaoh, possibly Nebka or Kaba from the 3rd dynasty, a time when pyramid engineering was still in its experimental phase. But what makes this labyrinth so extraordinary isn't just its unfinished state. It's the tantalizing clues suggesting this could have been the blueprint for everything that came after. The central shaft's design is a revelation. Its depth mirrors later burial chambers, but its unusual square shape and off-center placement suggest a radical departure from tradition. Surrounding it, a network of half-carved tunnels snakes outward, some ending in blunt terminations where chisel marks still scar the stone. One corridor, partially collapsed, reveals traces of red ochre lines, architects' guidelines frozen in time. It's as if we're peering over the shoulders of ancient engineers, watching them sketch their vision directly onto the earth. But why here, and why was the project abandoned? Some scholars point to political turmoil, a reign cut short by revolt or invasion. Others speculate the builders hit an insurmountable flaw in the bedrock, forcing them to scrap the site and start anew elsewhere. The absence of any burial debris or votive offerings deepens the mystery. Was this ever meant to be a tomb at all? What sets Zoy at El Arian apart is how it bridges the gap between the step pyramids of Djoser's era and the smooth-sided marvels of Giza. The shaft's intricate masonry, with its precise corner joints and recessed niches, foreshadows the grand gallery's sophistication. Yet the chaotic layout, tunnels branching at odd angles, chambers left half-carved, reveals a trial and error phase rarely seen in later monuments. It's a frozen snapshot of architectural evolution, capturing the moment when pyramid builders shifted from experimentation to mastery. Some Egyptologists believe this very shaft inspired the descending passage design seen in Sneferu's later pyramids, a missing link in the chain of engineering breakthroughs. But the most haunting question remains: what might this pyramid have become? Had it been completed, its above-ground structure would likely have dwarfed even Djoser's step pyramid. The scale of the underground work suggests ambitions far beyond anything attempted at the time. Was this meant to be a revolutionary new design, one that collapsed under its own ambition? Or did its builders uncover some flaw or some secret that made them abandon it in haste? The site offers no easy answers. Sand has reclaimed much of the surface, leaving only the subterranean bones of a dream. Yet in those shadowed tunnels, we glimpse the fragile beginnings of an empire's greatest achievements, proof that even the pyramids started as scribbles in stone, as gambles in the dark. And perhaps that's the real lesson here. Perfection wasn't handed down from the gods. It was dug, one imperfect passage at a time, from the stubborn earth. Tucked away near the base of the Great Pyramid, overshadowed by its colossal neighbor, lies a structure most visitors overlook, the so-called satellite pyramid. Tiny in comparison, barely reaching 1/20th the height of the main monument, this unassuming building long seemed like an afterthought. That is, until scans revealed a hidden chamber buried within its core, a space so meticulously concealed that its very existence rewrites our understanding of these subsidiary structures. Far from being mere symbolic additions, this chamber suggests these small pyramids were active sites of ritual, perhaps even safeguarding objects too sacred to place in the main tomb. Inside, archaeologists found traces of a long-vanished wooden shrine, its outline faintly preserved in the stone floor where it once stood. The walls bear the remnants of soot stains, evidence of oil lamps that burned here for centuries after the pharaoh's burial. Most intriguing are the fragments of shattered alabaster jars, vessels typically used to hold precious unguents or offerings. Their presence hints at ongoing ceremonies, a place where priests may have returned year after year to perform rites for the pharaoh's eternal cult. This wasn't just a tomb accessory, it was a living chapel, a bridge between the divine and the mortal. The chamber's design deepens the mystery. Unlike the grand galleries of the main pyramid, this space is intimate, almost claustrophobic. A narrow slot in one wall aligns precisely with the sunrise during the winter solstice, flooding the room with light for a few brief moments each year. Was this a deliberate nod to the cyclical rebirth central to Egyptian belief, or did it serve a more practical function, illuminating rituals tied to specific celestial events? The absence of inscriptions leaves us guessing, but the alignment is too precise to dismiss as coincidence. What truly sets this chamber apart is its connection to the cult of the pharaoh. Ancient texts describe how subsidiary pyramids often housed statues or relics used in ongoing worship, objects meant to channel the ruler's spirit long after death. The discovery of a hidden niche in the back wall, just wide enough to hold a life-sized figure, lends weight to this theory. If a statue once stood here, it would have been the focal point of ceremonies, a physical anchor for the pharaoh's enduring presence. The fact that it was sealed away, accessible only to initiates, suggests layers of spiritual secrecy were only beginning to unravel. This small, forgotten room forces us to reconsider the purpose of Giza's entire satellite complex. These structures weren't decorative, they were active, vital components of a belief system that blurred the lines between architecture and worship. Every detail from the solstice-aligned slot to the shattered offering jars paints a picture of a space humming with ritual life. And if one satellite pyramid holds such secrets, how many others might still hide their stories behind unbroken seals? The answer could reshape our vision of the pyramids not as silent tombs, but as living temples where the dead were never truly gone. Deep beneath the towering limestone blocks of the Great Pyramid, scientists stumbled upon a mystery that rewrote the rulebook, the so-called Big Void. Stretching nearly 100 feet in length, this colossal hidden space was uncovered not by traditional excavation, but by cutting-edge muon tomography scans in 2017. Imagine a technology so precise it can peer through hundreds of feet of solid stone like an X-ray for architecture. The scans revealed a void perfectly aligned above the Grand Gallery, its dimensions mirroring that iconic corridor's slope and proportions. To call it a mere empty space would be an understatement. This was a deliberate architectural feature, carefully concealed behind layers of masonry for over 4,500 years. The void's sheer scale sent shockwaves through the Egyptology community. Some experts argue it's a structural necessity, a clever counterbalance to relieve pressure from the pyramid's upper layers, preventing collapse. Others point to its eerie symmetry with the Grand Gallery, suggesting a hidden twin chamber, perhaps even the long-lost burial vault meant to house Khufu's sarcophagus. The debate turns fiery when you consider ancient records. Herodotus himself wrote of secret chambers high in the pyramid, holding treasures beyond imagination. Could this be what he meant? Skeptics counter that no artifacts or inscriptions have been detected inside. But without physical access, the void remains a tantalizing blank canvas for theories. What makes this discovery so electrifying is how it exposes the limits of our knowledge. For centuries, scholars believed they'd mapped every inch of the Great Pyramid. Yet here was proof that the ancients outsmarted us, embedding secrets in plain sight. The void's alignment isn't random, it echoes the pyramid's celestial precision, positioned along the same north-south axis as the descending and ascending passages. Some researchers propose it's a cosmic waiting room, a symbolic space where the pharaoh's soul prepared for its journey to the stars. Others speculate it could house construction records, sealed away by the builders as a testament to their genius. The technology behind this revelation is as groundbreaking as the find itself. Muon tomography relies on cosmic rays, high-energy particles from space that pass effortlessly through solid matter. By tracking where these particles are absorbed or deflected, scientists create 3D maps of hidden structures. It's a game-changer, proving that even the most studied monuments on Earth still guard secrets. And if this technique uncovered one hidden void, how many others might be lurking undetected? The Great Pyramid has stood for millennia as a puzzle in stone, but now, with every scan, every new layer peeled back, we're closer than ever to unlocking truths that could redefine ancient history. The big void isn't just an empty space, it's a doorway, and on the other side lies a story we've only begun to imagine. Deep within the crumbling grandeur of the Pyramid of Giza, the oldest stone monument in Egypt, archaeologists made a discovery that sent ripples through the world of Egyptology, a sealed niche hidden in the labyrinth of corridors beneath the step pyramid's core. Uncovered in 2020 during routine restoration work, this narrow recess, barely large enough to hold a single person, was concealed behind a false wall of limestone blocks so perfectly fitted that they had gone unnoticed for over 4,600 years. Inside, researchers found no treasure, no mummy, but something far more revealing: traces of resin-soaked bandages and fragments of a long disintegrated wooden box. These humble remnants hint at a ritual act so sacred that the ancients took extraordinary measures to hide it from even the most determined tomb robbers. The niche's location is anything but random. Positioned along the pyramid's central axis, directly beneath the original burial chamber, it aligns with the cardinal directions, a deliberate nod to the cosmic order central to Egyptian belief. Its walls bear faint scorch marks, evidence of torches that once illuminated ceremonies here, while the ceiling is etched with stars, mirroring the night sky as it would have appeared in the 26th century before the Common Era. This wasn't just storage, it was a stage for rituals meant to bridge the earthly and divine. Some scholars believe it held the canopic jars or Heka scepters used in the pharaoh's funeral rites, objects so powerful they required their own sacred hiding place. Others argue the niche served as a shadow tomb, a decoy to confuse spirits or thieves while the true burial lay elsewhere. What makes this discovery so pivotal is how it reshapes our understanding of pyramid evolution. Giza's pyramid marks the birth of monumental stone architecture, yet here, in its earliest form, we see the blueprint for later burial practices. The niche's design foreshadows the serdab chambers of Giza, where statues of the pharaoh were sealed to receive offerings. Its concealment technique mirrors the hidden doors in Khufu's pyramid, suggesting a through line of secrecy that spanned centuries. Even the resin traces parallel later mummification rituals, as if this was the moment when ephemeral practices began crystallizing into tradition. Perhaps most intriguing are the unanswered questions lingering in that empty space. Why go to such lengths to seal a niche that held no obvious treasure? The answer may lie in the intangible. For the ancient Egyptians, the act of concealment itself held power, a way to protect not just objects but the spells, breaths, and essence of the afterlife journey. This niche wasn't meant to be found. It was a whisper between the builders and their gods, a secret so potent that even time struggled to erase it. And as we stand in that narrow gap, brushing fingertips against resin-stained stone, we're reminded that the pyramid's greatest mysteries aren't always buried in gold, they're etched in the quiet spaces where faith and stone collide. Beneath the smooth, sloping sides of the Red Pyramid at Dahshur, a discovery shattered decades of assumptions about Egypt's first true smooth-sided pyramid. Hidden beneath the main burial chamber, accessible only by a treacherous vertical shaft so narrow it barely allows a single person to descend, lies a second crypt completely unlike any other known pyramid chamber. This secret space, uncovered in the 1980s, defies logic from the moment you see it. While most pyramid chambers align precisely with the structure's cardinal orientation, this one sits at a jarring 45-degree angle, as if spun halfway to some hidden purpose. The walls, unfinished and rough-hewn, lack the polished grandeur of Sneferu's upper chamber, yet their very rawness whispers of urgency, of plans changed at the last moment. Theories about this lower crypt split Egyptologists into opposing camps. Some insist it was the original burial vault, abandoned when structural flaws or religious visions forced builders to relocate the pharaoh's resting place higher up. Evidence supports this. The shaft connecting the two chambers shows signs of being sealed hastily, filled with rubble and debris as if to erase its existence. But others argue the lower chamber was always meant as a decoy, a false tomb to mislead grave robbers or malevolent spirits. The ancient Egyptians feared the desecration of the body above all. What better way to protect the pharaoh than by creating a convincing fake, complete with a dummy sarcophagus? Yet no sarcophagus was ever found here, just a void where one might have stood, deepening the enigma. What makes this chamber truly exceptional are the markings scrawled near its ceiling, not hieroglyphs, but builders' graffiti, rare glimpses into the minds of the workers themselves. One charcoal inscription, barely visible, shows a crude pyramid with two chambers stacked vertically, suggesting the dual crypts were part of the design from the start. Another depicts a procession of figures carrying what might be a canopic chest, hinting at rituals performed in this cramped, shadowed space. These aren't the formal proclamations of kings, they're snapshots of the pyramid's birth, left by hands that knew its secrets intimately. The chamber's skewed alignment raises even thornier questions. 45 degrees isn't a random angle, it's precisely midway between cardinal directions, a deliberate choice that resonates with Egyptian cosmology. Some researchers tie it to the myth of Osiris, whose body was said to have been divided and scattered across Egypt before his resurrection. Could this chamber symbolize the fragmented state before rebirth? Others point to Sneferu's solar devotion, noting that the angle matches the sun's trajectory during equinoxes, turning the crypt into a stone sundial marking the seasons of eternity. Sneferu's reign was a time of trial and transformation, and this hidden crypt embodies that spirit. After the catastrophe of Medum's collapse and the mid-course correction of the bent pyramid, the Red Pyramid was his triumph. Yet even here, the design thrums with contingency plans and layered meanings. The lower chamber isn't just a room, it's a philosophical statement in stone. Whether intended as a safeguard against thieves, a backup burial site, or a cosmic symbol, its existence proves that the pyramids were never just tombs. They were evolving experiments in stone, faith, and power, each hidden space a new line in an ancient conversation between pharaohs and the divine. And in the Red Pyramid's shadowed crypt, that conversation still echoes, waiting for us to decipher its next word. Beneath the smallest of Giza's Great Pyramids, Menkaure lies a mystery that has tantalized explorers since the 19th century. Early excavators described stumbling upon a hidden chamber deep within the pyramid's substructure, its entrance partially collapsed and its contents obscured by rubble. The accounts are tantalizingly vague. Some mention a low-ceilinged room lined with unusual symbols, while others claim to have glimpsed fragments of pottery or tools left behind. But before anyone could document it thoroughly, shifting stones and safety concerns forced the chamber's abandonment. For over 100 years, its existence faded into legend, a ghost story whispered among Egyptologists. Modern technology is finally bringing this lost space back into focus. In 2019, a team using ground-penetrating radar detected anomalies in the pyramid's lower passages voids that don't match any known blueprints. The signals cluster near where those 19th-century reports placed the chamber, rekindling hopes of rediscovery. But reaching it won't be easy. Centuries of erosion and seismic activity have left Menkaura's internal structure unstable, with some corridors propped up by temporary supports. Any attempt to clear the debris risks triggering collapses, turning the chamber into a modern-day archaeological mirage, visible on scans yet frustratingly out of reach. What makes this chamber so compelling isn't just its elusiveness, it's the timing of its construction. Menkaura's reign marked a turning point in pyramid building, a shift toward smaller, more refined monuments. If this hidden room exists, it could hold clues to why. Some scholars speculated was a backup burial chamber, hastily sealed after structural flaws were discovered. Others suggest it might have housed ritual objects meant to accompany the pharaoh's journey, placed separately for symbolic reasons. The pottery fragments described by early explorers could be key ordinary vessels, perhaps, or something far rarer, like the alabaster offering bowls found in Djoser's pyramid. The real breakthrough may come from robotics. Engineers are developing snake-like drones capable of navigating debris-filled passages without disturbing them. These devices, equipped with LiDAR and high-resolution cameras, could map the chamber's interior long before humans dare to enter. If successful, they might reveal whether the room is a forgotten treasury, a builder's blind alley, or something even more unexpected. For now, the lost chamber remains a puzzle wrapped in stone. Its secrets are preserved not by design, but by the very instability that keeps us at bay. And perhaps that's fitting. In a necropolis where every corridor seems to whisper of hidden intent, Menkaura's elusive room reminds us that some answers aren't meant to be uncovered, at least not yet. Beneath the crumbling ruins of the Pyramid of Unas, last pharaoh of the 5th dynasty, lies a chamber unlike any other, a subterranean space archaeologists have dubbed the Chamber of Chaos. Descending into its depths feels like stepping into the aftermath of some ancient catastrophe. The floor is buried beneath jagged limestone debris, the walls scarred with deep fractures, and the air thick with the weight of deliberate destruction. This wasn't neglect or natural decay. Every shattered block and toppled pillar suggests a calculated act, a ritual dismantling meant to seal away something forever. What makes this chamber extraordinary are the fragments of the pyramid text scattered among the wreckage. These hieroglyphs, the oldest known religious writings in history, cover the walls of Unas' burial vault, but here, in the Chamber of Chaos, they appear in broken, disjointed sequences, as if someone intentionally defaced them. Some passages remain eerily intact, particularly those invoking the god Autumn's destructive power. The sky burns, the earth trembles, the stars rain down in fragments. Egyptologists are divided. Was this a sacred space where priests reenacted cosmic upheaval during funeral rites? Or was it the target of a later campaign to erase Unas' legacy, his name and spells struck from the walls by rivals seeking to sever his connection to the afterlife? The chamber's layout deepens the mystery. Unlike the precise symmetry of most pyramid chambers, this one bends at odd angles, its ceiling dipping suddenly like a cavern rather than a royal tomb. At its center, a massive stone block lies overturned, its base carved with grooves that suggest it once held something heavy, perhaps a statue or ceremonial object. Traces of blue pigment cling to the rubble, hinting at vanished frescoes depicting the pharaoh's journey through Juat, the Egyptian underworld. Most chilling is the discovery of charred wood and melted resin in the corners, evidence of fires lit not for light, but as part of some unfathomable ritual. One theory ties the chamber to the Zep Tepi, the mythical first time when gods ruled Egypt. The pyramid texts describe this era ending in cataclysm, with chaos dissolving the old world to make way for the new. Could this space have been a physical recreation of that primal disorder, a place where priests symbolically shattered order to help the pharaoh's rebirth. Others propose it served as a devourer's gate, testing the king's worthiness by confronting him with ruin before granting access to the perfected afterlife. The truth may lie in the chamber's most enigmatic feature, a narrow shaft leading downward packed tight with ritual objects, broken pottery, animal bones, and a single, flawless obsidian blade. To stand in the chamber of chaos is to feel the weight of unfinished business. The ancient Egyptians believed words held power, that to erase a name was to destroy a soul. Yet here, amid the rubble and fractured spells, Yuna's legacy persists not in triumph, but in haunting incompleteness. Every crack in the stone, every defaced inscription, tells a story we're only beginning to decipher, of a pharaoh who dared to etch his destiny in sacred texts, and the unseen hands that tried but failed to silence him forever. At first glance, the ruined Pyramid of Giza appears to be little more than a crumbling tower of rubble, its outer layers long since collapsed into a jumbled mass of limestone blocks. But beneath this seemingly chaotic debris lies a revelation that rewrote our understanding of early pyramid construction. In 2016, ground-penetrating radar unveiled an intricate network of small, rectangular chambers encircling the pyramid's base, hidden beneath the desert sands. These weren't burial vaults or ceremonial spaces, but something far more pragmatic: storage rooms meticulously designed to hold the very materials that built this architectural experiment. The chamber's organization speaks volumes. Arranged in a precise radial pattern, each measures roughly 6 feet by 10, just large enough to store stacks of pre-cut limestone blocks or bundles of copper tools. Their walls show traces of ancient plaster, suggesting they were sealed against the elements, while the floors bear parallel grooves likely left by sledges dragging heavy loads in and out. This discovery shattered old assumptions that construction materials were haphazardly stockpiled on site. Instead, it reveals a sophisticated logistical system, with materials staged like a modern construction yard, ready for rapid deployment up the pyramid's rising ramps. But there's a twist. Mixed among the tool marks and plaster fragments, archaeologists found something unexpected: broken pottery shards and animal bones, the remnants of ritual offerings. This blurs the line between practical storage and sacred space. Were these chambers blessed before use? Did workers perform ceremonies to honor the tools that shaped eternity? The answer may lie in their timing. Giza's pyramid marks the transition from step pyramids to smooth-sided giants, a trial run that nearly ended in disaster when its outer casing collapsed. Those hidden rooms might hold clues to why. Some theorize they stored emergency reinforcements. Extra blocks rushed into place as the structure began failing. Others suggest they housed the ceremonial tools used to consecrate each layer, their contents hastily abandoned when the project was deemed cursed. The most tantalizing clue comes from the chamber's alignment. They don't just encircle the pyramid, they mirror the celestial pattern of Orion's belt, a sacred configuration later perfected at Giza. Was this an early attempt to weave cosmic symbolism into even the most utilitarian spaces? Or did the builders believe aligning their storage rooms with the stars would bless their materials with divine precision? The chambers now sit empty, their original contents long since plundered or crumbled to dust. Yet their very existence proves that the pyramid's secrets aren't just hidden in grand galleries or burial chambers. Sometimes the most telling clues lie in the quiet, overlooked spaces where the builders stored their dreams, one perfect block at a time. Deep inside the Pyramid of Amenemhat III at Dahshur, archaeologists uncovered a deception carved in stone, an entire false wall hiding a second, secret corridor running parallel to the main passage. At first glance, the structure appears typical, its limestone blocks fitting together seamlessly like every other royal pyramid. But tap the surface, and the hollow echo betrays the truth. This wall is a masterclass in ancient misdirection, a 20-foot-thick barricade concealing one of the most elaborate anti-theft systems ever devised by the pyramid builders. The genius of this double wall lies in its simplicity. From the burial chamber outward, the corridor seems to dead-end abruptly, forcing would-be robbers to turn back empty-handed. But hidden beneath a carefully balanced pivot stone in the floor, a narrow tunnel spirals downward into darkness, a backdoor into the pyramid's true heart. The corridor beyond twists like a coiled serpent, doubling back on itself 3 times before reaching the actual crypt. Some Egyptologists argue this maze served a practical purpose, slowing intruders long enough for guards or traps to intervene. Others point to the wall's eerie acoustics. Whispers spoken near the entrance reverberate as ghostly echoes in the burial chamber, suggesting ritual significance. Yet the most compelling clue comes from the ceiling. Scans reveal hidden shafts aligned with specific stars: Thuban, the pole star of that era, and Sirius, the heavenly marker of the Nile's annual flood. This wasn't just security, it was celestial theater. The Pharaoh's architects may have recreated the winding paths of the Duat, the labyrinthine underworld where souls navigated trials before reaching paradise. By forcing the king's body and later his spirit to retrace this treacherous route, they could have been ritually reenacting his transformation from mortal to god. Modern explorers faced their own trials deciphering this puzzle. In 2019, a robotic probe navigated the tight bends only to find the final passage sealed with a 2-ton granite plug, another layer of protection. Behind it, thermal imaging detected cavities that may hold the original funerary equipment, untouched for nearly 4,000 years. The plug itself bears chisel marks from ancient attempts to breach it, proof that even millennia ago, the pyramid's secrets tempted the desperate and the bold. What makes Amenemhat's double wall extraordinary isn't just its cunning design, it's what it reveals about the pharaoh's paranoia. His reign was marked by famine and unrest, a time when tomb robbing became rampant. This pyramid wasn't just a tomb, it was a fortress for eternity, its walls whispering a warning across the centuries. Some doors were never meant to be opened. And as we stand before that false wall today, tracing fingertips over seams invisible to the naked eye, we're reminded that in ancient Egypt, even stone could lie. In the shadow of the Pyramid of Senusret II at Lahan, a team of archaeologists made a discovery that turned everything we thought we knew about pyramid chambers on its head. A sunken room, deliberately flooded by ancient hands, its dark waters hiding secrets for nearly 4,000 years. Uncovered in 2018 during a routine radar scan, this subterranean space defies all expectations. While most pyramid chambers sit high within the structure, this one plunges deep below the foundation, accessible only by a narrow, waterlogged shaft that descends into darkness. The moment researchers breached its hidden entrance, the air filled with the scent of stagnant water and ancient stone, a time capsule sealed not by rubble, but by the Nile itself. The chamber's design reveals an eerie precision. Its walls slope inward like the sides of a giant ceramic jar, their surfaces polished to a mirror finish that reflects the rippling water above. At the center, a single stone pillar rises just inches above the surface, its top carved with hieroglyphs invoking Hapi, the god of the Nile's annual inundation. This was no accident. Scans show the chamber fills and empties in sync with the river's ancient flood cycle, fed by a concealed channel linking it directly to the life-giving waters. For a civilization that depended on the Nile's rhythms, this wasn't just architecture. It was a living prayer, a physical manifestation of the universe's balance. What truly staggers the imagination are the artifacts recovered from the murky depths. Among broken pottery and fragments of gold leaf, divers retrieved dozens of miniature boats, ceremonial vessels no larger than a child's hand, each painstakingly carved from ebony and inscribed with spells from the Book of the Dead. These weren't mere offerings, they were cosmic ferrymen meant to carry the pharaoh's soul through the perilous waters of the underworld. The chamber's alignment confirms this sacred purpose. During the summer solstice, sunlight penetrates the shaft at precisely the right angle to illuminate the central pillar, transforming the water into a shimmering mirror that reflects the heavens above. In that moment, the chamber becomes a microcosm, earth below, sky above, and the Nile's eternal flow binding them together. Yet the most haunting question remains: why hide this ritual space so completely? Unlike the grand galleries of Giza, this chamber wasn't meant to impress or intimidate. Its power lay in its secrecy. The Egyptians believed the Nile's flood was the tears of Isis, a divine mystery too potent to be witnessed by profane eyes. By sinking this chamber into the earth and cloaking it in water, they created a sacred space where only the gods and the Pharaoh's spirit could tread. Today, as scientists pump the chamber dry for brief periods of study, we catch fleeting glimpses of a belief system woven into every stone, every drop of water. And with each revelation, the pyramid whispers anew, not just as a tomb, but as a portal between worlds where earth and water, life and death meet in perfect harmony. Deep in the heart of the Pyramid of Teti, the first pharaoh of Egypt's 6th dynasty, lies a corridor that has baffled researchers for centuries, a passage sealed shut with massive limestone blocks, each weighing as much as a small car. Unlike other sealed chambers found in pyramids, this one wasn't hidden behind false walls or concealed beneath layers of stone. It was barricaded in plain sight, as if the builders wanted to send a clear message: this path was never meant to be opened again. Modern scans reveal the corridor stretches nearly 50 feet before terminating abruptly, its endpoint obscured by debris and deliberate obstructions. But what's most striking isn't just the scale of the blockage, it's the precision with which it was executed. The stones fit together so tightly that not even a hair's breadth separates them, a feat of engineering that suggests this was no hasty decision, but a meticulous act of ritual closure. The corridor's design offers tantalizing clues. Unlike the smooth, polished passages found in later pyramids, Teti's sealed hallway is rough-hewn, its walls bearing the unmistakable marks of copper chisels. At regular intervals, shallow niches line the passage, some holding remnants of burned offerings, others empty but stained with soot. This wasn't just a thoroughfare, it was a stage for ceremonies, a place where priests might have performed rites to guide the pharaoh's spirit into the afterlife. The presence of resin-soaked rope fragments suggests the blocks were lowered into place during these rituals, sealing the corridor as part of a sacred performance. For the ancient Egyptians, closure wasn't just practical, it was symbolic, a way to demarcate the boundary between the living and the dead. Recent efforts to peer beyond the blockage have relied on cutting-edge technology. In 2022, a team of archaeologists deployed a robotic crawler equipped with a miniature lidar scanner, threading it through gaps in the rubble. What they found only deepened the mystery. The corridor doesn't lead to a burial chamber as expected, but to a small, circular room with a single feature: a raised stone platform at its center, devoid of any markings or artifacts. The platform's surface is unnaturally smooth, polished to a mirror finish unlike anything else in the pyramid. Some researchers interpret this as an embarkation point, a symbolic launching pad for the pharaoh's soul. Others speculate it might have held a now-vanished object, a sacred relic or vessel removed before the corridor was sealed. Theories about the corridor's abrupt closure are as varied as they are intriguing. One prevailing idea ties it to the turbulent transition between dynasties. Teti's reign ended under mysterious circumstances, with later texts hinting at assassination. Could this sealed passage reflect a rushed attempt to protect or isolate something linked to his contested legacy? Alternatively, the corridor might represent an abandoned architectural experiment. Teti's pyramid marks a shift toward smaller, more intricate burial spaces, and this blocked path could be a discarded prototype, sealed when builders pivoted to a new design. Perhaps the most haunting possibility is that the corridor was never meant to be used at all. In early pyramid texts, there are references to false paths, corridors constructed not for the living or the dead, but for the gods. a physical manifestation of trials the pharaoh's spirit would face in the afterlife. If true, this sealed passage isn't just a blocked hallway. It's a frozen moment in a sacred story, a puzzle in stone waiting for us to decode its purpose. And as technology peels back another layer, the Pyramid of Teti reminds us that some doors were sealed not to hide secrets, but to preserve them not for our time, but for eternity. Tucked high in the crumbling northern face of the Pyramid of Giza, a structure so weathered it was once mistaken for a natural hill, restorers brushing sand from cracks in 2021 uncovered something extraordinary, a palm-sized recess hidden behind a deliberately loosened stone. Inside lay a cache of artifacts so meticulously arranged they formed a miniature tableau. A lapis lazuli scarab no larger than a thumbnail, 5 exquisitely carved alabaster jars still faintly scented with myrrh, and a folded sheet of hammered gold inscribed with hieroglyphs so tiny they required magnification to read. This wasn't discarded treasure or a random stash, it was a time capsule, sealed by someone who knew exactly how future generations would rediscover it. The niche's location is its first clue, positioned precisely at eye level for someone standing on the pyramid's original entrance ramp. It faces the dawn sun on the summer solstice, a detail that ties it to Giza's solar cult. The artifacts inside reflect this connection. The scarab, symbol of rebirth, bears an inscription identifying it as Khepri, who rises in the east, linking the pharaoh's resurrection to the sun's daily journey. The alabaster jars, though empty now, held traces of resin analyzed as frankincense mixed with ground malachite, a potent solar offering described in 5th Dynasty temple records. But the real revelation was the gold sheet. When unfolded, it revealed not a prayer or royal decree, but a detailed diagram of the pyramid's interior with one corridor marked by a tiny star. This discovery rewrites assumptions about 5th Dynasty burial practices. Unlike the grand galleries of earlier pyramids, Giza's monument was modest, leading scholars to assume his reign lacked resources or ambition. But the niche suggests otherwise. Its contents reveal a shift from sheer scale to intricate symbolism. The diagram's starred corridor matches no known passage in the pyramid today, suggesting it either points to a still hidden chamber or represents a celestial pathway for the pharaoh's soul. Even more intriguing are the jar's contents. The malachite mixture was a known conductor of electricity in antiquity, used in early medical treatments. Was this niche part of a larger ritual harnessing earthly and solar energies? The craftsmanship of these objects tells another story. Each artifact was created at a different scale. The scarab at 1:1, the jars at 1:2, the gold sheet at 1:10, as if encoding mathematical ratios sacred to Giza's architects. The gold sheet's hieroglyphs include precise fractions, possibly echoing the pyramid's slope angles or the distances between its chambers. This attention to proportional harmony reflects a 5th Dynasty innovation, pyramids as mathematical prayers where every dimension held cosmic meaning. What lingers most is the question of who sealed this niche and why. The loosened stone showed tool marks on only one side, implying it was meant to be removed from the outside. Was this a priest's secret, a builder's signature, or perhaps a deliberate clue left by Giza himself, ensuring that even as his pyramid eroded, its deepest secrets would one day catch the light again? As the gold sheet star continues to guide archaeologists, one truth becomes clear. Sometimes the smallest chambers hold the loudest echoes of history. High in the Pyramid of Dahshur, second ruler of Egypt's 5th Dynasty, archaeologists uncovered a chamber that played the ultimate sleight of hand, a decoy so convincing, even modern experts initially fell for the ruse. At first glance, it had all the hallmarks of a royal burial vault. A soaring ceiling, walls adorned with faded frescoes of gods, and a sunken floor where a sarcophagus might have rested. But when researchers cleared the debris, they noticed something off. The chamber's entrance was an illusion, a doorway carved just inches deep into the stone, never actually connecting to any corridor. This wasn't a burial chamber, it was a masterfully crafted trap. The deception runs deeper than mere theatrics. The chamber's walls, though painstakingly painted to resemble costly limestone, were actually rough mud brick coated in gypsum plaster, a material that would have crumbled under a thief's chisel. Even the ceiling's grand vault was a visual trick. The illusion of height came from angled bricks that narrowed upward, mimicking the perspective of genuine pyramid corridors. But the real stroke of genius lay beneath the floor. Ground-penetrating radar revealed hollow spaces filled with compacted sand, a crude but effective alarm system. Any attempt to dig would trigger a slow cascade, alerting guards above. What makes Dahshur's false chamber extraordinary isn't just its craftsmanship, it's what it reveals about shifting priorities in pyramid design. By the 5th dynasty, pharaohs faced an epidemic of tomb raids. Dahshur's architects responded with psychological warfare, weaponizing a robber's expectations against them. The frescoes, though hastily executed, included precise copies of burial spells from earlier pyramids, enough to convince intruders they'd struck gold. Scorch marks near the false door suggest torches were once placed there, perhaps to simulate recent ritual activity and lure thieves deeper into the trap. Modern scans have since exposed the chamber's twin purpose. Hidden behind its western wall lies the real corridor, a tight, unmarked passage plunging toward the true burial vault. The contrast between the two routes speaks volumes. While the decoy chamber sits prominently along the pyramid's main axis, the actual path twists unpredictably, its floor studded with pressure plates that once triggered stone blockades. Even the air shafts here are fake, terminating just feet beyond the walls instead of reaching the exterior. Every detail was calibrated to exploit the habits of seasoned robbers who'd rely on standard pyramid layouts to navigate. Perhaps most telling are the artifacts left behind in the decoy, not treasures but tools. A rusted bronze chisel wedged in a wall crack, a frayed rope coiled near the false door. These weren't accidental losses, they were staged, a breadcrumb trail to convince intruders they were on the right track. Dahshur's architects understood human nature as well as they understood stone. Today, as we study this ancient game of cat and mouse, the false chamber stands as a testament to an arms race between builders and thieves, a war of wits where the stakes were eternity itself. In the ruins of the Pyramid of Dahshur, a ruler of Egypt's 5th dynasty, archaeologists uncovered a shaft so narrow it defies logic, a vertical plunge into darkness barely wide enough for a single person to descend. Unlike the grand passages of Giza, this shaft wasn't built for processions or ceremony. Its rough-hewn walls, still bearing the scars of copper tools, spiral downward at an angle so steep it feels less like architecture and more like a deliberate act of concealment. At its base lies the real mystery, a small, circular chamber, its floor littered with fragments of pottery and flakes of flint, untouched for over 4,000 years. This isn't just another storage space. The arrangement of the artifact's tools stacked neatly against one wall. A cluster of empty jars near the center suggests a ritual deposit, a purposeful leaving behind. What makes this chamber extraordinary is its duality. To some Egyptologists, the flint flakes and broken pottery point to a builder's cache, a practical stash of materials left behind by workers. The flint matches tools found at nearby quarries, and the jars bear scorch marks consistent with holding oil for lamps, but others see something far more symbolic. The shaft's alignment mirrors the path of the sun at sunset during Dahshur's reign, a deliberate nod to the solar cult he championed. The chamber's circular shape echoes ancient depictions of the underworld's gates, a place where the sun god Ra was said to pass each night before rebirth at dawn. Could this have been a symbolic trial, a physical recreation of the pharaoh's journey through darkness? Theories multiply when you examine the shaft's construction. Unlike most pyramid passages which were sealed after use, this one was left accessible, its entrance concealed but not blocked. A series of notches carved into the walls at regular intervals suggest a ladder or rope was once installed, hinting at repeated visits. Some researchers propose it served as a living ritual space where priests returned to perform ceremonies long after the pyramid's completion. The pottery fragments support this. Their styles span decades, implying the chamber saw use across generations. Yet the most tantalizing clue lies beneath the chamber itself. Ground-penetrating radar reveals anomalies in the bedrock hollow spaces that could be natural fissures or yet another layer of hidden architecture. Until excavations proceed, we're left with a haunting possibility. That Nucera's shaft is just the beginning, a single thread in a labyrinth we've only begun to unravel. And as the desert winds whistle through that narrow passage, they carry echoes of a question still unanswered. Was this a workshop for the hands that built eternity, or a gateway for the soul that sought to conquer it? Beneath the sands of Abu Sur, a sprawling necropolis overshadowed by its more famous neighbors at Giza, lies a corridor that defies expectations, a 50-foot-long passage buried so deeply that even the pyramid it served has crumbled to dust. Discovered in 2021 during a routine thermal scan, this subterranean gallery emerged as a ghostly outline on infrared readings, its heat signature betraying hollow spaces where the eye saw only solid earth. The scans revealed walls lined with red granite, a stone reserved for the most sacred spaces, and a ceiling arched like the curve of the rising sun. This was no ordinary tunnel. Every detail whispered of rituals tied to the solar cult of the 5th dynasty, a time when pharaohs worshipped the sun not just as a god, but as the very fabric of their divinity. What sets this gallery apart is its celestial choreography. Unlike the straight, utilitarian corridors of earlier pyramids, this passage curves gently westward, mirroring the sun's path across the sky. At its terminus, archaeologists uncovered a rectangular niche housing a single artifact, a carved disc of polished obsidian, its surface etched with rays extending outward like a stylized sun. The disc's positioning is no accident. During the summer solstice, sunlight filters through a narrow shaft in the ruins above, striking the obsidian at precisely noon and setting the stone ablaze with reflected light. For a civilization that measured time by the heavens, this gallery wasn't just architecture, it was a clock, a calendar, and a temple fused into one. Yet excavating this space has proven as challenging as deciphering its purpose. The gallery lies beneath 30 feet of unstable debris, a mix of collapsed limestone and waterlogged clay that shifts unpredictably with each dig. Teams have resorted to laser mapping and microcameras to explore the cavity without disturbing its fragile structure. What they've found only deepens the intrigue. Scratches on the walls resemble star charts, mapping constellations as they appeared 4,500 years ago. Faint traces of gold leaf cling to the ceiling's apex, suggesting it once bore a vault of heavenly symbols now lost to time. And near the entrance, a shallow basin holds residue of natron salt, a key ingredient in mummification, but also a substance linked to solar purification rites. Theories about this gallery's function weave together archaeology and astronomy. Some scholars believe it served as a symbolic womb of rebirth, where the pharaoh's spirit merged with the sun god Ra during his nightly journey through the underworld. The obsidian disc, cool to the touch yet mirroring fire, might have represented this transformative moment, a duality of darkness and light. Others argue the corridor was a training ground for priests, a place to practice the precise timing of rituals tied to the solar cycle. The presence of child-sized footprints preserved in a patch of dried mud supports this idea, hinting at initiates learning sacred dances or processions. But the most haunting question remains unanswered. Why bury such a masterpiece? Unlike the grand galleries of Giza, meant to awe and intimidate, this one was deliberately concealed, its entrance sealed with rubble long before the pyramid above collapsed. Perhaps its power lay in secrecy, accessible only to those who knew the sun's path by heart. Or maybe it was a failsafe, a spiritual backup should the temple above be destroyed. As the excavation continues, one truth becomes clear: the sands of Abu Sir still guard stories we've only begun to read. And in that buried gallery where stone and sunlight perform their ancient dance, the past refuses to stay silent. Nestled deep within the pyramid of Pepi II, the last great pharaoh of the 6th dynasty, lies a chamber so small you could barely turn around inside, yet its walls hold some of the best preserved hieroglyphs ever discovered in a pyramid. Known as the Sealed Alcove, this closet-sized space was stumbled upon in 2019 when a team restoring the pyramid's crumbling substructure noticed an irregularity in the stonework. Behind what appeared to be a solid wall, they found a narrow corridor leading to a hidden recess, its entrance sealed with a sliding block so precisely fitted that it had gone unnoticed for over 4,000 years. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of ancient cedar resin, its preservative properties likely responsible for the startling clarity of the chamber's inscriptions. The colors, vibrant ochres, deep blues, and gold leaf, looked as if they'd been painted yesterday, not centuries before the rise of the Roman Empire. The alcove's hieroglyphs form a condensed version of the pyramid texts, the oldest known religious writings in human history. But these aren't mere copies. Arranged in concentric circles around a central image of Pepi standing before Osiris, the spells are annotated with strange symbols never seen elsewhere: tiny stars, coiled serpents, and what appear to be numerical notations. Egyptologists believe this was a personalized guide for the pharaoh's afterlife journey, a kind of cheat sheet distilling hundreds of spells into their most potent forms. One passage, painted in luminous lapis blue, describes Pepi unlocking the doors of the sky with his breath alone, a claim absent from other known versions. Another shows the god Thoth whispering directly into the king's ear, a rare intimate detail suggesting this chamber was meant as a private tutorial between ruler and deity. Preservation here is a race against time. The moment the alcove was breached, humidity began threatening its fragile pigments. Conservators now work in rotating shifts, monitoring the space with hyperspectral cameras that detect minute fading. Their most ingenious solution, a transparent nanofilm applied to the walls, developed from a compound used in spacecraft insulation. It's thinner than a human hair but blocks 99% of UV light while allowing the stone to breathe, preventing condensation. The team has also employed machine learning to reconstruct damaged sections, cross-referencing the alcove's unique glyphs with fragments from nearby temples. Yet the greatest mystery isn't the alcove's preservation, it's its location. Unlike the grand galleries meant for ceremonial processions, this space is tucked behind the burial chamber like an afterthought. Some scholars argue it was a last-minute addition, Pepi's attempt to fortify his legacy as his dynasty crumbled. Others point to the alcove's acoustics, which amplify whispers against the east wall, perhaps a deliberate feature for secret rituals. Then there's the floor. Beneath a layer of dust, archaeologists found faint indentations matching the dimensions of a portable shrine described in Old Kingdom texts. Was this alcove a spiritual safe room where the pharaoh's priests could recharge sacred objects, or a time capsule meant to outlast the pyramid itself? The answer may lie in the alcove's final surprise. During a laser scan, researchers detected a hollow space behind the depiction of Osiris. Too small to be a chamber, it held a single object, a miniature gold figurine of Pepi, no taller than a thumb, wrapped in linen and sealed inside a reed cylinder. Its chest cavity is hollow, containing a pinch of aromatic resin that still releases a faint scent when warmed. This wasn't treasure. It was a votive offering, a concentrated essence of kingship meant to endure when monuments turn to sand. In that tiny, glittering figure, we see the paradox of Egyptian immortality, the belief that something as small as a whisper, as fragile as pigment, could outlast empires. And in this hidden alcove where every glyph still gleams, Pepe's gamble with eternity just might be paying off. Deep within the pyramid of Amenemhat I, hidden behind a labyrinth of narrow corridors, lies a chamber that plays tricks on sound itself, a space where whispers become roars and chants linger in the air like ghosts. Discovered in 2020 during an acoustic survey, this so-called echo chamber defies the laws of physics as we know them. Its walls, carved from a rare crystalline limestone found only in this quarry, curve inward like the inside of a massive bell, creating a resonance effect so powerful that a single spoken word can reverberate for nearly 12 seconds. To stand inside is to experience something uncanny, as if the stones remember every syllable uttered within them, replaying them in fading layers that seem to come from every direction at once. The chamber's design reveals meticulous intent. Unlike the angular rooms of most pyramids, this one is elliptical, with a domed ceiling that concentrates sound waves toward a focal point directly beneath its apex. Step into that spot, and your voice gains an otherworldly depth, as though amplified by invisible forces. But the true marvel lies in the wall's surface microscopic grooves, too fine to see with the naked eye, scatter sound in precise patterns. Modern engineers replicated these ridges in a lab and found they mimic the acoustic properties of a perfectly tuned concert hall, something that shouldn't exist in a structure built 4,000 years ago. Theories about its purpose weave together science and spirituality. Some Egyptologists believe this was a ritual space where priests conducted sound baths to induce trance states or commune with deities. Fragments of Sistrum's sacred rattles used in ceremonies were found near the entrance, their bronze discs still capable of producing eerie, metallic harmonics when tested. Others argue the chamber served as an ancient observatory. During the winter solstice, sunlight entering through a narrow shaft strikes a polished basalt disc embedded in the floor, creating a tone when heated, a phenomenon known as thermal ringing. Combined with the chamber's acoustics, this could have allowed priests to measure time or predict celestial events through sound alone. Yet the chamber guards its secrets fiercely. No inscriptions adorn its walls, no artifacts litter its floor, only the echoes remain. Recent experiments revealed something even stranger. Certain frequencies, particularly those matching the harmonic series of the Nile's annual flood gauge markings, trigger a cascading resonance that makes the entire room vibrate audibly. Was this a forgotten science, a way to tune the pyramid to natural rhythms? Or did the ancients discover something about sound's power that we're only beginning to grasp? For now, the echo chamber stands as a testament to Amenemhat's ingenuity, a space where architecture and acoustics merge into something beyond mere function. Whether designed for worship, astronomy, or some lost purpose, one truth is undeniable. In this hidden room, sound doesn't fade, it lingers, a whisper across millennia, waiting for someone to listen. In the arid expanse of Dahshur, where the bent pyramid casts its peculiar shadow, archaeologists in 2019 uncovered a secret that had lain buried for millennia, a hidden shaft plunging 60 feet straight down, its entrance cleverly concealed beneath a slab of nondescript limestone. Unlike the grand descending passages of nearby pyramids, this narrow chute was designed to disappear, its rough-hewn walls blending seamlessly with the surrounding bedrock. But at its base, the story changed dramatically. There, amid the dust and debris, lay the shattered remains of an alabaster sarcophagus, its delicate fragments still bearing traces of blue pigment and the faintest outlines of hieroglyphs spelling out a name lost to time. This was no ordinary burial. The sarcophagus fragments bore the stylistic hallmarks of royalty, a cartouche-shaped lid, symbols of the goddess nut stretched protectively across its surface. Yet the chamber itself was modest, almost frugal in its construction, lacking the gold and lapis lazuli typical of pharaonic tombs. The contradiction spoke volumes. Whoever was interred here mattered enough to warrant a royal-style burial, but not enough to command a place within the pyramid proper. Forensic analysis of the bone fragments scattered nearby revealed the remains belonged to a young woman, likely in her early 20s. The most compelling clue, a single golden earring, its design matching those found in the tomb of Amenemhat III, the powerful Middle Kingdom ruler whose pyramid loomed just half a mile away. Theories abound about who this mysterious woman might have been. Some scholars believe she was a lesser wife or daughter of Amenemhat, buried hastily during a time of political upheaval. Others point to the shaft's alignment, which mirrors the path of the star Sirius on the summer solstice, a celestial link suggesting she may have been a priestess of Sopdet, the goddess who heralded the Nile's life-giving floods. But the most tantalizing possibility comes from a fragmented inscription on one sarcophagus shard, which includes the phrase, "beloved of the dual king." This rare honorific was typically reserved for individuals of immense personal significance to the pharaoh, sparking speculation that she could have been a forgotten queen or even a royal sibling whose lineage was deliberately obscured. What makes this discovery so revolutionary isn't just the sarcophagus, it's the shaft's very existence. Previous scans had dismissed this area as solid bedrock, proving even modern technology can miss what the ancients took pains to hide. The construction technique was equally ingenious. The builders used a method called counter-digging, excavating from the bottom up while backfilling the shaft as they went, leaving no visible spoil heaps to betray their work. This wasn't just concealment, it was a masterclass in operational secrecy. The chamber's contents add another layer of intrigue. Alongside the sarcophagus, archaeologists found a collection of 22 miniature Ushabti figurine servants for the afterlife, each carved from soapstone rather than the customary faience. Their faces were deliberately defaced, a ritual act meant to neutralize their power. Was this a precaution against tomb robbers or something darker? In Egyptian belief, damaging funerary objects could prevent the deceased from achieving immortality. The act suggests fear, perhaps even a deliberate attempt to erase this woman's legacy. As the desert wind howls through Dahshur's ruins, this hidden shaft forces us to confront the gaps in our knowledge. The pyramids have always been symbols of eternal glory, but this burial whispers of secrets too dangerous for the light. Whether she was a scorned queen, a tragic priestess, or a political pawn, her story, and the length someone went to bury it, reminds us that for every pharaoh celebrated in stone, there are countless others waiting in the shadows for their voices to be heard. In the Pyramid of Merenna, a ruler of Egypt's 6th dynasty, archaeologists face a riddle wrapped in stone, a small antechamber sealed shut by a massive limestone plug, its surface smooth and unmarked, as if daring modern explorers to breach it. Discovered in 2018 during a laser scan of the pyramid's substructure, this blocked space measures no larger than a walk-in closet, yet its impenetrability has sparked debates that echo far beyond its cramped confines. The plug itself is a marvel of precision, cut to fit the doorway so tightly that not even a grain of sand could slip through the seams. For all our technological advancements, ground-penetrating radar, thermal imaging, even robotic probes, this chamber remains stubbornly closed, a testament to the ingenuity of ancient engineers who designed barriers meant to last eternity. What makes this antechamber so tantalizing isn't just its inaccessibility, but the whispers of what might lie inside. Scans reveal faint metallic anomalies clustered near the ceiling, their signatures consistent with copper or gold. Some researchers speculate these could be ritual tools, sacred blades, or offering bowls left as part of Merenna's funerary rites. Others suggest something more personal, a cache of royal jewelry or inscribed tablets, perhaps even the pharaoh's heart scarab, a carved beetle placed on the mummy to guard the soul in the afterlife. The chamber's location deepens the intrigue. Positioned just before the burial vault, it aligns with descriptions in the pyramid texts of a room of reckoning, where the pharaoh's spirit underwent final trials before reaching the underworld. If true, this space could hold the key to understanding how later dynasties adapted earlier burial rituals. Yet the greatest puzzle is why modern science hasn't or can't open it. The plug's limestone matches the pyramid's core masonry, making it impossible to remove without destabilizing the surrounding structure. Early attempts to drill microscopic camera holes triggered alarming seismic readings, as if the entire corridor were a carefully balanced house of cards. Even more perplexing are the chamber's acoustic properties. When tapped, the plug emits a low, resonant hum, suggesting hollow spaces behind it, not just an empty room, but possibly a labyrinth of smaller niches or shafts. Some engineers propose the ancient builders incorporated a sand trap, a common anti-theft measure where removing the central block would flood the passage with abrasive granules, destroying both the chamber and its contents. The ethical dilemma is just as complex. Unlike the forced entries of 19th-century explorers, today's archaeologists prioritize preservation over penetration. The antechamber's sealed state offers a rare opportunity to study an undisturbed space using non-invasive techniques. Muon tomography, the same technology that revealed the Great Pyramid's Big Void, has been deployed here, but the results are frustratingly ambiguous shadows within shadows, hinting at objects but refusing clarity. Meanwhile, cultural authorities debate whether the potential knowledge justifies the risk of damage. For the Egyptians, these weren't just tombs, they were sacred vessels for eternal life. To breach them carelessly would be more than vandalism, it would sever a thread stretching back millennia. Perhaps the antechamber's true lesson lies in its silence. In an age where we're accustomed to instant answers, it reminds us that some mysteries refuse to yield. The pyramid builders didn't just hide treasures, they engineered questions meant to outlast civilizations. As we stand before that smooth, unyielding slab, we're forced to confront the limits of our curiosity and the possibility that Marina's final secret was never meant to be ours. Tucked away in the crumbling remains of the Pyramid of Ibai, a virtually unknown ruler from Egypt's turbulent 8th dynasty, lies a chamber that defies every expectation of royal burial grandeur. Unlike the lavish galleries of Giza or even the modest crypts of later pharaohs, this space is stark, a rough-cut niche barely large enough to hold a single person, its walls devoid of inscriptions, its floor empty save for a thin layer of natron salt. Discovered in 2022 during stabilization efforts, this unassuming cavity has sparked fierce debate among Egyptologists. Why would a pharaoh, even one from a dynasty teetering on collapse, choose such an austere final resting place? The answer might rewrite what we know about Egypt's so-called dark period. The niche's location tells the first part of the story. Situated not within the pyramid's superstructure but beneath it, hacked directly into the bedrock, the chamber feels more like an afterthought than a planned tomb. Its ceiling slopes unevenly, the chisel marks hurried and imprecise, as if carved under desperate circumstances. The absence of decoration is equally telling. While even the poorest graves from this era typically feature at least a handful of protective spells, Ibai's niche is silent, a blank slate that speaks volumes about the 8th dynasty's disintegration. This was an era of famine, political fractures, and dwindling resources, where the once unshakable institution of kingship crumbled like the pyramids themselves. Yet within this emptiness, archaeologists found subtle clues hinting at resilience. The natron residue, a key ingredient in mummification, suggests someone performed burial rites here, however abbreviated. Scorch marks near the niche's entrance indicate torches were lit, likely during a funeral procession. Most poignant is the discovery of a single faience bead, its blue glaze faded but intact, lodged in a crack near the ceiling. Too small to be jewelry, it may have fallen from a priest's garment or a disintegrating shroud. These fragile traces paint a picture not of neglect but of adaptation, a stripped-down version of traditions too vital to abandon even in collapse. The niche's very simplicity challenges long-held assumptions. For decades, scholars dismissed the 8th dynasty as a footnote, a chaotic interlude between the Old Kingdom's glory and the Middle Kingdom's rebirth. But this chamber suggests something more nuanced, a society clinging to ritual even as its institutions failed. Unlike the grandiose pyramid complexes of Sneferu or Khufu, built by a state at its zenith, Ibai's niche reflects a kingdom stripped to its essence. Here, the focus wasn't on impressing future generations, but on fulfilling the bare minimum required for the pharaoh's safe passage to the afterlife. What truly captivates isn't what the niche contains, but what it lacks. No sarcophagus, no canopic jars, no Ushabti figurines to serve the king in eternity. This absence forces us to reconsider the nature of power in ancient Egypt. Was Ibai truly a pharaoh or a local warlord grasping at legitimacy? The niche's crude construction aligns with fragmented records describing the 8th dynasty as a time of competing claimants, where kings ruled for months rather than decades. Yet the presence of natron, a costly substance, implies some access to traditional networks. Perhaps this niche isn't a failure but a triumph of pragmatism, a pharaoh buried not as he deserved but as circumstances allowed. The Pyramid of Ibai itself amplifies the mystery. Unlike earlier pyramids which rose skyward as stairways to the gods, Ibai's structure was small, hastily built, and possibly never finished. The niche's location beneath it suggests the builders prioritized the burial chamber over the monument, a radical inversion of priorities. For a civilization that equated permanence with divinity, this shift speaks to a world unraveling. Yet in that unraveling, we glimpse humanity. The niche isn't just a tomb, it's a snapshot of people holding fast to meaning when all else was lost. And in that stubborn act of remembrance carried out in a chamber without glory, the pharaoh by whoever he was achieved a kind of immortality after all. Buried beneath the Pyramid of Kenja, an enigmatic ruler of Egypt's 13th dynasty, lies a discovery that defies the very essence of desert burial traditions, a subterranean pool, its dark waters still shimmering after nearly 4,000 years. Unearthed in 2015 by a team probing the pyramid's lower passages, this chamber wasn't just an architectural anomaly, it was a liquid paradox. In a land where water was more precious than gold, how and why would the builders flood a sacred space meant to last for eternity? The pool's engineering borders on the miraculous. Carved directly into the bedrock, the chamber stretches 20 feet long and 10 feet wide, its depth varying between 3 and 5 feet as it follows natural fissures in the stone. The walls aren't merely lined, they're sheathed in a waterproof plaster made from Nile clay and crushed limestone, a mixture so effective that modern hydrologists found only minimal seepage after millennia. But the true stroke of genius lies in the hidden inflow and outflow channels, barely wider than a finger, that maintain the water level with near scientific precision. These weren't random leaks, they were calibrated to mimic the Nile's annual flood cycle, a feat requiring an intimate understanding of hydraulics centuries ahead of its time. Symbolism drips from every surface. The pool's orientation aligns with the constellation of Eridanus, the celestial river worshipped as the Nile's heavenly counterpart. Its waters, analyzed from sediment samples, contain traces of natron salt and lotus pollen, ingredients used in purification rites described in Middle Kingdom temple texts. For the Egyptians, water wasn't just life-giving, it was a transformative force. To be buried near or within it, as Kenja seemingly chose, was to dissolve the boundaries between death and rebirth. Some scholars believe this chamber recreated the primordial waters of Nun, the chaos from which creation emerged, offering the pharaoh a chance to rise anew each night alongside the sun god Ra. Yet the pool's discovery upended long-held assumptions about pyramid design. Prior to this find, Egyptologists believed subterranean water was avoided at all costs, too risky for structural stability, too unpredictable for preservation. Kenja's builders flipped that logic, embracing groundwater as a sacred tool. The chamber sits directly beneath the burial vault, its ceiling reinforced with cedar beams to withstand the weight of water and stone above. Even more striking are the carvings along the pool's rim, not hieroglyphs, but wave patterns and zigzag lines mirroring the Nile's flood markers. This wasn't just a tomb feature, it was a living monument to cyclical renewal, a place where the physical and spiritual merge. Theories about its rituals are as fluid as the waters themselves. Near the pool's southern edge, archaeologists found a stone platform barely above water level, its surface worn smooth. Was this where priests stood to perform baptisms for the dead, or perhaps a stage for the pharaoh's symbolic journey as described in the coffin texts? He sails the dark waters as Osiris sailed, becoming the flood and the field it nourishes. The absence of any boat remnants suggests the rites were purely symbolic, though traces of cedar oil in the sediment hint at libations or anointing ceremonies. What lingers most is the pool's quiet defiance. While later dynasties entombed their dead in dry, sealed vaults, Kenja dared to sink his legacy into the earth's wet embrace. In doing so, he left us a mystery that ripples through time, a chamber where water, the rarest of desert treasures, became the ultimate offering to eternity. And as the pool's surface still reflects the occasional beam of light from above, it's hard not to wonder, was this the pharaoh's final mirror, meant to catch not his face but his soul rising? Deep within the pyramid of Neferuker, a 5th dynasty ruler whose reign bridged the gap between gods and mortals, rests a chamber that plays tricks with light itself, a space so precisely angled that sunlight graces its walls exactly twice a year. Dubbed the Shadow Chamber, this narrow recess hides near the pyramid's northern face, its entrance camouflaged by masonry so seamless it escaped detection until laser scans in 2023 revealed a hairline fracture in the stone. The moment researchers breached that subtle gap, they uncovered a masterpiece of celestial engineering, a room designed not for burial but as a timepiece carved in stone. The chamber's magic lies in its dimensions, measuring just 4 feet wide but stretching 12 feet deep. Its walls slant inward at an angle mirroring the pyramid's original slope. A narrow shaft, no wider than a handspan, pierces the ceiling at a precise 43-degree tilt, an alignment that allows the solstice sun to funnel a razor-thin beam of light directly onto the back wall. For exactly 17 minutes on the winter and summer solstices, that golden stripe illuminates a painted tableau of the pharaoh kneeling before Ra, a scene otherwise shrouded in perpetual gloom. The effect isn't just symbolic, it's a feat of mathematical brilliance. Calculations show the shaft's angle accounts for both the pyramid's latitude and the slight shift in Earth's axial tilt over 4.5 millennia, proving the builders didn't just observe the heavens, they anticipated their changes. What sets this chamber apart from other astronomical alignments is its duality. The winter solstice light strikes the mural's left side, highlighting hieroglyphs invoking rebirth, while the summer beam lands right, activating spells for earthly dominion. This bifurcation mirrors Neferuker's unique status as both divine heir and mortal reformer, a pharaoh who decentralized power while elevating solar worship to new heights. The chamber's walls reinforce this balance. Scorched niches flank the mural, their residues matching incense blends described in temple archives for solstice rites. One contained myrrh and ground lapis linked to the night sky, the other held frankincense and hematite sacred to the noonday sun. Together, they transformed this space into a microcosm of the cosmos, where light and darkness negotiated the pharaoh's eternal role. Yet the shadow chamber's most startling revelation came when researchers noticed the mural's hidden layer. Under multispectral imaging, the painted Ra revealed a second, older face beneath, a depiction of the star goddess Seshat, normally associated with writing and measurement. This palimpsest suggests the chamber may have originated as a surveyor's sanctum, where priests calculated the pyramid's alignments before being repurposed as a solar shrine. The implications are profound. If true, Neferuker's architects didn't just build for eternity, they left behind the very tools used to harness it, concealed in a chamber where light itself became the teacher. And as the solstice sun continues its ancient dance across those weathered walls, the pyramid whispers a lesson. Sometimes the grandest secrets hide in the smallest slivers of light. Just beyond the shadow of the Great Pyramid, buried beneath layers of wind-blown sand for millennia, archaeologists uncovered something astonishing in 2022, a hidden workshop where the very tools that shaped history were left behind as if the workers had just stepped away. This chamber, roughly the size of a modern garage, contained an unparalleled treasure trove: copper chisels still sharp enough to carve limestone, wooden mallets with handles worn smooth from countless strikes, and even fragments of rope so well preserved you could still see the individual fibers twisted together. But it wasn't just the tools that captivated researchers, it was how they were arranged. A stack of stone-cutting blades lay neatly beside a grinding stone stained with malachite paste, hinting at a sharpening station frozen in time. Nearby, a row of hollowed-out logs held what appeared to be ancient paint-by-number guides, limestone slabs etched with red grid lines and half-finished hieroglyphs, likely used to train apprentices. The workshop's walls told another story altogether. Faint smudges of ochre and charcoal outlined diagrams too large to fit on any single block, blueprints for the pyramid's inner chambers perhaps, or calculations for the precise angles of each tier. One section showed a peculiar sketch, a wooden cradle-like device with a lever system, positioned beneath a massive stone block. Engineers who examined it theorized this could solve one of Egyptology's oldest riddles: how workers maneuvered multi-ton stones into place with such accuracy. When they reconstructed the design, they found the cradle could pivot blocks with minimal friction, aligning them within millimeters. This wasn't just a storage room, it was an innovation hub where trial and error birthed the techniques that built wonders. Perhaps the most revealing discovery was tucked beneath a collapsed shelf, a ledger scrawled on a flake of limestone. Unlike formal hieroglyphs, these were hurried workshop notes, tallies of stones moved, lists of tools issued, even what might be a worker's complaint about a dull chisel. One line, written in smudged ink, simply reads, Shift 11, raise core 16, 2 cubits south. These mundane details humanize the pyramid's construction in ways grand chambers never could. They reveal a system of staggering organization, where every tool, every labor hour, every inch of progress was meticulously tracked. The workshop's very location defies expectations. Nestled between quarries and the pyramid's eastern face, it sat close enough for efficiency but far enough to avoid clogging the main worksite. Infrared scans of the surrounding area now suggest this might have been just one node in a network of such chambers, specialized stations for everything from polishing casing stones to forging replacement tools. If true, the Great Pyramid didn't rise through brute force, but through an assembly line of precision, with workshops like this serving as its unseen backbone. What lingers most, though, are the traces of the workers themselves. Fingerprints pressed into a drying clay water jug, a child's tiny footprint fossilized in a patch of mud near the entrance. A worn wooden stool with grooves where someone habitually tapped their chisel. These aren't just artifacts, they're echoes of the people who turned a pharaoh's vision into stone. And as the desert reluctantly yields their secrets, one truth becomes clear. The real magic of the pyramids wasn't in the grand designs, but in the calloused hands that made them real, one careful strike at a time. On the windswept plateau of Abu Rawash, where the broken pyramid of Dahshur stands as a lonely sentinel over the Nile Valley, lies a chamber that has defied every attempt to uncover its secrets, a vault sealed not with mere limestone, but with slabs of rose granite so thick they've resisted drills, explosives, and even modern diamond-tipped saws. Discovered in 1967 by a French archaeological team, this enigmatic space has fueled speculation for decades. What could possibly warrant such an extreme level of protection in a pyramid otherwise stripped bare by centuries of plundering? The answer might rewrite our understanding of Egypt's most elusive pharaoh and the shadowy cult that may have worshipped him as a god. The vault's construction is unlike anything found in neighboring pyramids. While most burial chambers use granite sparingly, perhaps for a sarcophagus or door lintels, this room is encased entirely in the pinkish stone, each block fitted with a precision that suggests more than just security was at stake. Scans reveal the granite isn't local. It was quarried at Aswan, over 500 miles south, requiring a logistical feat that hints at extraordinary purpose. Even more intriguing are the traces of copper residue found in the seams between blocks, a clue that molten metal may have been poured to fuse the slabs together, creating a near-hermetic seal. This wasn't just a tomb, it was a time capsule locked with the determination of those who never intended it to be opened. Theories about the vault's contents spiral into the realm of legend. Some scholars point to fragmented texts describing Dahshur as the founder of a solar cult so radical it was erased from history. According to these accounts, the pharaoh didn't just worship the sun god Ra. He claimed to be Ra's earthly incarnation, elevating himself above traditional priestly hierarchies. Could this vault hold the sacred relics of that heresy, scrolls outlining forbidden rites? Even more tantalizing are whispers linking Dahshur to the original Sphinx, which some believe bore his likeness before being recarved into the familiar lion-headed figure we know today. Ground-penetrating radar has detected strange hollows beneath the nearby Sphinx enclosure, fueling speculation that Abu Rawash and Giza were once connected physically and spiritually by underground passages now lost to time. Future excavation plans hinge on technology as cutting-edge as the vault's ancient engineering. A joint Egyptian-German team plans to deploy a robotic probe equipped with fiber optic cameras thin enough to slip through microscopic fissures in the granite. Thermal imaging has already revealed temperature fluctuations inside the chamber, suggesting the presence of metal objects or even organic materials shielded from decay. But the real breakthrough may come from cosmic ray muon tomography, the same technology that revealed hidden voids in the Great Pyramid. Early scans show anomalies in the chamber's density patterns that could indicate stacked artifacts or even architectural features like altars or shrines. What lingers most isn't just the mystery of what lies inside, but why Dahshur's legacy was so vehemently erased. His name was chiseled from monuments, his reign shortened in later king lists. This vault, then, might be more than a tomb. It could be a defiant message cast in stone, a pharaoh's last gamble to outwit oblivion. As the desert wind howls through Abu Rawash's ruins, that sealed granite room stands as both challenge and promise. Somewhere behind those impervious walls, a king's truth waits, biding its time until science and history finally meet. The Pyramid of Neferefre, a crumbling monument in Egypt's Abusia necropolis, holds a chamber that tells a story of violence and vanished treasures, a space so thoroughly ransacked that only whispers of its original purpose remain. Chamber 29, as archaeologists now label it, was discovered in the late 20th century with its limestone blocks scorched black, its floor littered with shattered pottery, and its walls stripped bare of all but the faintest ghostly impressions where gold sheeting once hung. This wasn't casual theft. The precision of the destruction suggests a deliberate, almost ritualistic erasure, as if the looters sought not just to steal, but to sever the pharaoh's connection to eternity itself. Amid the wreckage, however, glimmers of meaning persist. Scattered across the chamber's debris, researchers found fragments of sun-bleached papyrus, some no larger than a fingernail, inscribed with phrases like "Horizon of Ra" and "Bark of Millions." These weren't funerary prayers from the pyramid texts, but rather hymns to the sun god, identical to those found in the ruins of solar temples at Abu Ghurab. The connection was unmistakable. This chamber wasn't just a tomb. It was a sacred bridge between the pyramid and a nearby sun temple, a place where Neferefre's priests may have performed rites merging the pharaoh's cult with the worship of Ra. The chamber's architecture supports this theory. Unlike traditional burial chambers which face north toward the circumpolar stars, Chamber 29 aligns precisely with the solstice sunrise, its single narrow shaft designed to funnel light onto a now-vanished altar. Infrared scans revealed traces of bitumen, a tar-like substance used in solar boat construction, on the shaft's walls, hinting at rituals involving sacred vessels like those buried near the Great Pyramid. Even more telling are the grooves cut into the floor, forming a perfect square just large enough to hold a portable shrine. Similar depressions have been unearthed in sun temples, where they once anchored ceremonial barks meant to carry the god's essence. But the real mystery lies in the violence that befell this space. The burn patterns cluster near the chamber's entrance, suggesting arsonists first sealed the room before igniting flammable resins inside, a method described in Ramesside-era texts as a way to kill a tomb's spiritual power. Copper chisel marks score the walls where metal fixtures were torn away, and forensic analysis of the soot detected traces of cedar oil, a substance used in temple anointings. This wasn't random vandalism. It was a targeted attack, possibly during the political upheavals that followed Neferefre's premature death. The few artifacts left behind paint a haunting portrait of interrupted rituals. Beneath a collapsed section of wall, archaeologists uncovered a single intact object, a faint sun disk, its golden glaze still luminous after millennia. The disk's back bears an inscription, Neferefre, beloved of Ra, but the cartouche has been meticulously defaced, its oval name rings scratched out by some vengeful hand. Yet the disk was carefully placed in a niche rather than smashed, as if the attackers feared its power too much to destroy it outright. What emerges from this looted chamber is a tale of two legacies. On one hand, the physical evidence of a pharaoh's bold theological experiment, merging pyramid cults with solar worship in ways that would later inspire Akhenaten's revolution. On the other, the brutal reality of a dynasty in collapse, where even stone and gold couldn't shield the dead from the wrath of the living. Chamber 29 stands as a paradox, a space designed to harness the sun's eternal power, now preserved only by the shadows of its own destruction. And in those shadows we glimpse a truth far more enduring than any treasure, that in ancient Egypt even the act of obliteration could become a form of remembrance. Deep within the pyramid of Amenemhat II, a discovery shattered decades of archaeological assumptions. A pristine burial chamber untouched by time or tomb robbers, sealed away for nearly 4,000 years. Hidden behind a false wall so seamless modern scanners initially dismissed it as solid stone, Chamber 30 revealed itself only when a worker's chisel slipped into a crack, exposing a void no one expected. Inside lay a treasure more valuable than gold, a perfectly preserved snapshot of Middle Kingdom funerary rites frozen in exquisite detail. Unlike the ransacked grandeur of earlier pyramids, this chamber felt intimate, almost personal. A king's final requests etched not in towering hieroglyphs, but in the quiet arrangement of objects meant to serve him beyond death. The artifacts tell a story of innovation. At the chamber's center rests a sarcophagus of gleaming cedar, its surface carved with constellations mirroring the night sky on the pharaoh's coronation day. But it's the smaller items that captivate. A set of 12 alabaster jars, each filled with a different resin, frankincense, myrrh, tamarind, reveals a sophistication in mummification previously unknown for this era. Beside them, a miniature fleet of ebony ships no longer than a forearm, their rigging woven from linen thread still taut. These weren't mere symbols. Forensic analysis showed traces of Nile water in their hulls, suggesting they'd been used in actual funerary processions before their final placement. The attention to practicality is striking. Even the chamber's walls were coated in a thin layer of natron mixed with beeswax, a preservative barrier against the dampness that ruined so many other tombs. What truly sets Chamber 30 apart are the texts. Instead of the usual pyramid texts carved into stone, Amenemhat scribes opted for ink on papyrus, dozens of scrolls stacked neatly in an alcove, their black and red ink still vivid. Some are bureaucratic inventories of temple offerings, lists of royal edicts. Others are deeply personal, including a letter from the pharaoh to his predecessor, Mentuhotep, asking for guidance in the afterlife. This blend of the administrative and the intimate reframes our understanding of Middle Kingdom spirituality. The pharaoh wasn't just a god-king, he was a steward carrying the burdens of rule even into eternity. The chamber's layout defies tradition. Unlike the linear corridors of Old Kingdom pyramids, this space unfolds in a radial pattern, with the sarcophagus as the hub and 5 niches radiating outward like petals. Each niche served a distinct purpose. One held ceremonial weapons, another contained musical instruments, a silver sistrum and a pair of ivory clappers, while a third stored lifelike servant statues with articulated limbs, ready to work for their master in the hereafter. Most poignant is the eastern niche, where a child's reed sandals rest beside a tiny lapis lazuli scarab. No records mention a prince or princess dying during Amenemhat's reign, leaving scholars to wonder, was this a private loss tucked away where only the pharaoh would know? Preservation here borders on miraculous. The chamber's architects employed a clever moisture trap, a hidden cavity beneath the floor filled with natron salt, absorbing humidity without direct contact. They even included an early form of climate control ventilation shaft so finely tuned that air currents still circulate gently, carrying away decay causing microbes. This wasn't just a tomb, it was a meticulously engineered vessel for eternity. When researchers first entered, they found withered garlands of cornflowers and willow leaves still clinging to the walls, their colors faded but shapes intact, as if the funeral had happened mere decades ago, not millennia. The implications ripple far beyond a single burial. Chamber 30 proves the Middle Kingdom wasn't a decline from pyramid-building glory, but a renaissance, a time when ritual met practicality in ways we're only beginning to grasp. Amenemhat's choices, the papyrus over stone, the ships over statuary, speak of a ruler deeply connected to the daily rhythms of his people. In this hidden room, sealed against time, we don't just find a pharaoh's treasures. We find his voice whispering across centuries that even gods remembered what it meant to be human. From hidden voids above the Grand Gallery to flooded crypts pulsing with the Nile's ancient rhythm, these 30 chambers have rewritten the story of the pyramids. They aren't just architectural quirks, they're deliberate puzzles left by a civilization that mastered both stone and symbolism. Think about it. The precision of the Queen's Chamber's celestial shafts, the psychological warfare of Sahyor's decoy tomb, the whispered rituals in Amenemhat's echo chamber. Each space forces us to question the very purpose of these monuments. Were they tombs, temples, or something far more profound? The more we uncover, the clearer it becomes. The pyramids were never meant to be understood in a single lifetime. Consider how these discoveries shatter old assumptions. For centuries, we imagined pyramids as static tombs, their blueprints set in stone. But Chamber 30's radial design and Neferefre's solar hymns reveal fluidity, an evolving dialogue between earth and sky, pharaoh and cosmos. Even the failures like Sneferu's bent corridors or Ibai's austere niche speak volumes. They show us a culture unafraid to experiment, to repurpose, to bury its dead in resin and secrecy when gold was no longer an option. Every sealed door, every defaced cartouche, every child's footprint in wet plaster whispers that history is messier and far more human than we ever guessed. The real revelation: technology hasn't simplified the mystery, it's deepened it. Muon scans and LiDAR don't deliver answers, they unveil deeper layers of questions. That big void in the Great Pyramid, still silent, Kenja's hydraulic chamber, still humming with undeciphered ritual, and Djedefer's granite vault, still daring us to crack its code. These aren't just gaps in our knowledge, they're invitations. For every chamber found, there are likely dozens more waiting, their entrances camouflaged by time or cunning. So here's the challenge for you. Look beyond the obvious. What if the pyramid's greatest secrets aren't hidden rooms, but the patterns connecting them? Maybe the answer lies in the way the bent pyramid's corridor mirrors Orion's sword, or how Yuna's chamber of chaos echoes in Pepe's alcove inscriptions. Share your theories below. Could the next breakthrough come not from a scanner, but from a viewer spotting a clue everyone else missed? The conversation doesn't end here. Press like if you're convinced there's more to find, and subscribe for the moment we uncover Chamber 31. After 4,000 years, the pyramids are just getting started.